Hi, welcome again to the Louise Janetta YouTube channel. Thanks for watching. In this demonstration I'm going to be doing these two little abstracts that are shown in the pictures above. They are done with the pigment transfer and diffusion technique that I've been developing. I did make mistakes, you'll see towards the end, and in this case I have remedied them by putting a wash of coloured inks over the top of it afterwards, and it just took really nicely. It really worked. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you get the chance to do it yourself. Happy creating. Thanks for watching. So I've got myself a piece of paper stretched. I've put masking tape on. I stretched the piece of paper. I gessoed it. I marked it off. You can probably just see the lines. I've got two squares on here. Two squares on there, and the idea is I want to make two lovely little abstracts using the sort of concepts we've been developing with this pigment transfer thing. I've got my sketchbook with some square abstracts that I've been messing with, and I'm going along this sort of lines, I think, for this one, for one of them. So I then cut a piece of paper the same size as this, the actual image I'm going to have, and then I started to work out how I was going to do it. And now I'm going to cut them out. So I'm going to cut out the forms that I've got, and I'm not too fussy about it. And this is to transfer it over into templates, and I'm going to be using the acetate that I managed to acquire from somewhere. I mean, this is fairly rough. I'm not too bothered about it. These scissors aren't the best. I am lazy about all that sort of thing. But I'll cut the acetate a bit more carefully because I don't like the extra scissor shapes. So I'm just going to build up these forms so that I know it's going to fit how I want it to, and it's going to fit into the shape that I'm doing. So what I've ended up with is that sort of composition. Again, I'm trying to keep interest probably with the sort of way the paint lies and the edges. I don't want to go bonkers with lots of detail in the composition, so that's going to be one, and I shall repeat the process for another one, I think, something like it at least. Is the light too bright? There's the drawing of the second one. I'll take a photograph of it and put it up beside just to give you a reference, because they never ever seem to turn out the same or how you want them to turn out. So it's interested how it starts, and that one came from this little abstract sketch, and I like these blobs within it, so I might add them either afterwards or first, or I might just, put them in as little rounds of acetate and see what happens. So I've got my composition together, and it's really important that the nuances between the forms are nice, and it's not that easy to do because you can't really see what you're doing and because when you lift it up to put the pigment underneath, everything moves in any case, but we shall see what happens. So I'm just spraying it all with the water first. There's air bubbles, but I think that's... And the other thing as well is when you do it on a piece of paper, it actually mix the two brushes up. It actually makes the paper ruckle a bit, which I don't necessarily like. I can't always tell whether it's gone underneath or not, so that's another issue. So you have to keep lifting and playing with it to make sure it has actually gone underneath. And it looks like, and it is, a complete mess, but I get the opportunity to change it all, don't I, as I go forward. Well, I've completely lost my lovely composition, haven't I? But I can pull that all back together again as I keep going. And you see how the paper is ruckled, and now what will happen is the pigment will stay in those ruckles and I don't like it. So the chances are I will get something and sit it, once I've sort of got rid of a lot of the stuff, I'll sit something on top of it to stop that from happening. It's so much easier with fabric. I think I might just, start just doing it with the fabric. I love that rusty colour there. I wanted some dark brown in it too. I love it when you get these gorgeous edges to it, where the darker colours mark it so much. Right, now I know, like something like that bit in there has got no colour in, but I don't mind because you can add the colour in afterwards. And I don't know, sprayed it a bit. Do I mop it all up? And is it as it dries, does it suck itself under? There's some really nice bits, isn't there? I hope it's actually gone underneath as well. And do I lift it so that it's more in the thing? Or do I let those lovely blemishes happen? I mean, even that's nice. And here you see it's lost the pigment in the middle because the paper's buckled. And it's not sort of falling into the middle of it. It doesn't matter. I'll have to see what happens. Okay, let's try the other one. Gosh, that's lovely, isn't it? You don't need to do any more. You just leave that and see what happens. In fact, I should do that, because then I can add colours on top of it. When that's dry, I could put another layer on. Oh, that's an interesting one. But then you can't see them anymore. Then you can put that one on top of that when it's dry. Let's see, I'll try it now. Crikey, they're just so nice. Am I wrong to love them all so much? That's fascinating. I wonder what happens going to happen there. They're nice underneath there, aren't they? It is tricky this, because the acetate sheets stick down on the wet paper. It's difficult to do it with gloves on, and I did at one point end up just painting the back of the acetate and putting it down. It's also difficult to see quite how it's taken and how well it's taken, and also it needs a great deal of experimentation to see the best mix of paint. You can use acrylic inks for this, and they do seem to diffuse through the water that you've sprayed on better, but it's so much cheaper to use diluted acrylics. The only thing is that if you dilute acrylics too much, you dilute down the binder, the acrylic medium that sticks the pigment within the acrylic together. So if you've diluted it down too much, it doesn't stick to your canvas or your paper so well. It'll stick to something absorbent, just as a watercolour pigment will, but to something with a gesso, it's not so keen, it won't stick down. So it's a question of balance. It's getting enough binder to bind the pigment to your substrate, your canvas or your gesso. But you can also add a binder or an acrylic medium as a glaze afterwards, and that acts like a glue to stick it down. And that's how you do it if you are using it on a canvas and you've really diluted the acrylic. You bind it afterwards. I really like adding the dark edges to it. The pigment gathers at the edges because of the way it diffuses through the water tension of the water, the sprayed water and the water that the pigment is diluted in. But it also, if you put these darker edges in, that also pools, makes a really lovely unusual line that you don't seem to be able to get in other ways. So I really like adding that dark. I'm showing you the little diagram at top because I really like these little dots, little marks within the abstract sketch that I'd done in my sketchbook. So I'm just slowly adding these little pigment marks as well, and it'll diffuse over the gesso on the paper in any case. And you could just add a bit of spray water as well, which will make it diffuse even more. But again, it's all experimenting at the time. I did really like them when it had dried. And I really like the dark edges round things. It sort of gathers, the pigment gathers at the edges. I explained how it does that in another video, but it seems to have a sort of really nice, strange effect that would be difficult to achieve in any other way other than through this technique. I've already put my spray bottle onto one of the acrylic templates on the right hand side in order to fix the template down to try and stop the ruckling effect that makes the pigment pool in the depths of the ruckles as the paper is stretched. And you'll see that in the end I actually put weights all over it when I left it to dry, and so long as you don't put the weight over the edge of the acetate template, it doesn't mark it, because if you do, then it'll create its own ring or its own mark from its base. There, so I've covered it. So I put weights on it to make sure it actually, the plastic stayed down on the papers, and it's been left overnight. So now let's see what happens. And I think because it sticks to this so much, it's like a risk as to whether it's actually going to take up. And then of course it's doing this, which it did last time. I think I've got too much. It's just not worked. I wonder if I wet it would be better. I've got too much acrylic binder or medium in the mix, so it's actually sticking to the actual templates. But again, I mean, all this stuff is so interesting to see. If I'd left this overnight, if I'd done it in the morning and come to it in the evening, I could have kept more of an eye on it. You see where it's not dried completely, like so. It's not sticking, but where it's really dried, it's sticking. I mean, I don't actually mind, because I just like the effect. It's just not worked, has it? What a shame! I just let it dry too long. I mean, there's such nice things happen when it does work. That's lovely. I have got to do more of these so that I know what I'm doing. I still think, you see, it's just completely come off with it. Bits of plastic are lovely, look. These little jewels. I still think it's possible to do something with this. but I've got too much binder in the mix. The glue is binding it to the paper. Honestly, it's still got some really lovely unusual marks. I'm not disappointed. It's just not what I wanted. I'm not in control of it. Okay, so I twiddled with it a bit, and that's how it's come out. And I like that. I mean, I could work into this even more. I could use inks and so on, but I really like that. And I'm going to clean off the edges, and the mount is just slightly bigger, so it will have an edge. But that's about it. It's a shame that I used such poor quality paper. I don't know quite what was wrong with it, but it took the acrylic binder too much. If you want to learn more about this and how I do the process, and particularly how I manage to finish it off, it's a question of signing up for lessons. If you just go to my website, I will start uploading online lessons over this next year. Well, I hope you enjoy. Happy creating. See what happens. All the best and thanks for watching. Bye.